Welcome to a brand new deep dive. Today we're getting into Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Ah, yes, a book that really shook things up for a lot of people.
Absolutely. It's, shifted perspectives for millions on money, investing, and financial freedom.
It really frames things differently from the get-go.
It does. Kiyosaki contrasts the financial thinking of two main figures. His own dad, highly educated but, well, financially struggling. The poor dad.
Hmm.
And his friend's dad, who was more entrepreneurial, the rich dad.
A very powerful setup for the lessons he wants to share.
Definitely. So our mission today, let's unpack those key lessons, the mindset shifts, and the big takeaways that might just change how you see wealth.
Could spark some aha moments, whether you read it before or not.
Exactly. Prepare to look at your finances maybe a little differently. Okay, let's start with that first big idea about financial education. Kiyosaki comes out pretty strong on this.
He really does. And, it's often taken as him knocking traditional schooling, but it's more nuanced, I think.
How so?
Well, he highlights the critical importance of financial education, something the Rich Dad really emphasizes. It's not about dismissing academic skills.
Okay.
It's about pointing out a massive gap. Schools teach us how to work for money, but often not how money works.
Right, the mechanics of it, accounting, investing.
Exactly. Accounting, investing, understanding markets, even basic law related to finance. Rich Dad saw these as essential.
And the consequence of not learning this stuff.
Well, Kiyosaki argues that's why you see smart, highly paid people still living paycheck to paycheck or struggling financially. They lack that specific financial literacy.
Which leads to that famous quote.
The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. It's foundational to the whole book.
It really challenges that standard, get a good job, get a paycheck model.
Completely. It's a call to think differently about income generation itself.
Okay, so if you want money to work for you, that leads directly to his next big point, doesn't it? The whole assets versus liabilities thing.
Yes. And this is where it gets really interesting and sometimes a bit controversial for readers.
How so? Define those terms as Kiyosaki sees them.
So simply put, assets put money in your pocket. Think things like rental properties generating cash flow, dividend-paying stocks, maybe a business you own that runs without you needing to be there 24/7.
Okay, things that generate income.
Right. Liabilities, on the other hand, take money out of your pocket. Car payments, credit card debt. And here's the controversial one for some.
The house.
Yeah, potentially your primary residence, especially if it has a large mortgage and high upkeep costs without generating income. He sees it as a liability in that case, not an asset.
That definitely goes against the grain for a lot of people, the American dream and all that.
It does. And Rich Dad's advice is quite radical. Focus intensely on acquiring assets first.
Build the income streams.
Exactly. Then use the income from those assets to buy the luxuries, the liabilities. Don't use your salary directly for them if you can help it.
Which completely flips how most people approach spending and saving, doesn't it?
Totally. It challenges that earn, spend, maybe save a little pattern. It's about building the engine first.
Okay, so this focus on assets, that ties into escaping what he calls the rat race. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the rat race. It's his term for that cycle most people get caught in, the one exemplified by the poor dad path.
Which is?
Get a good education, get a safe job, earn a salary, climb the ladder, but then expenses rise too. Buy a bigger house, nicer car, often on credit.
So you're working harder and harder just to pay the bills for the lifestyle.
Precisely. You're trapped. Earning more, but spending more. Just running faster on the hamster wheel, the rat race. You're dependent on that next paycheck.
Always chasing it.
Yeah. And Rich Dad's philosophy is all about breaking free from that dependency by creating income streams that don't rely solely on you trading your time for money.
Passive income.
Business income.
Exactly. Things that make money even when you're not actively working at that moment. That's the escape route.
So that sounds like it points strongly towards, well, entrepreneurship, or at least thinking like an entrepreneur. Very much so. Rich Dad champions starting businesses or investing wisely as the main paths to real wealth and independence.
Building something for yourself.
Right. It's about creating systems that generate income. But Kiyosaki also adds, even if you stay in a traditional job, you can still apply this. Side hustles. Investing part of your salary, assuming expert might naturally code switch slightly, but investing part of your salary consistently in assets, it reduces your reliance on that single paycheck.
Gives you options, a safety net maybe?
Options, safety, and a pathway to potentially leave the job eventually if that's the goal. It's about regaining control over your financial life.
Okay, but let's address the elephant in the room for many people. Fear. Investing. Starting a business.
No.
It's scary. Fear of losing money is huge. How does the book handle that?
That's a really critical point. Fear absolutely stops people cold.
Yeah.
Rich Dad's teaching isn't about avoiding risk altogether. That's impossible and, frankly, often leads to stagnation. It's about learning to manage risk.
Calculated risks, you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Calculated risk-taking. It requires ongoing learning, understanding what you're investing in, and building resilience, knowing that sometimes you will make mistakes or lose money.
So failure is part of the process.
It's seen as a learning opportunity. The goal isn't to play it so safe you never grow. It's to get smarter about the risks you take, to mitigate the downsides. Like learning any new skill, really. You don't avoid driving because you might have an accident. You learn the rules, practice, and become a competent driver.
Navigate the landscape, not hide from it.
Precisely. Financial literacy helps you navigate that landscape more effectively.
And that connects nicely to another idea you touched on, working to learn, not just to earn. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, this is such a powerful concept. Kiyosaki uses his own life as an example.
How so?
Early on, he deliberately took jobs, like in sales, for Xerox, I believe, not because the pay was amazing, but because he wanted to learn specific skills. Sales, marketing, understanding business systems, how deals are put together.
So the learning was the real compensation.
In the long run, yes. He saw those skills as assets in themselves, things that would enable him to build wealth later on. He argues that focusing only on the paycheck often means missing opportunities to gain invaluable experience.
That makes sense. You're investing in your own capabilities.
Exactly. Building your human capital, which then allows you to build financial capital more effectively.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. We've talked about financial education, assets versus liabilities, escaping the rat race, entrepreneurship, managing fear, working to learn. What's the big picture? What's the ultimate mindset shift Kiyosaki is pushing for?
You know, at its core, Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't really a step-by-step how-to guide for investing. It's not like buy this stock or invest in this specific real estate.
Right, it's more philosophical.
Exactly. It's fundamentally about changing your mindset, your entire relationship with, and approach to money. It's a motivational blueprint, really.
So what are the key shifts for someone listening, maybe someone who already thinks they know a bit about money?
Well, first, shift your focus from just chasing a bigger paycheck to actively building wealth, which means acquiring those income-generating assets.
Okay, don't just earn more. Own more of the right things.
Precisely. Second, don't just blindly follow conventional financial advice. Question it. Understand the why behind it. Become financially literate yourself. Take responsibility for your own financial education.
Be proactive, not passive.
And third, understand that building wealth isn't usually about luck or just working harder in your job. It's about making smart decisions, being disciplined, learning continuously, and yes, taking those calculated risks.
It puts the power and the responsibility squarely back on the individual.
It really does. It's about adopting the mindset of an investor and a business owner, even if you're an employee.
Right. And that wraps up our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's definitely a powerful reminder that building wealth often starts not just with earning more, but thinking differently, making money work for you.
A fundamental shift.
So here's something for you to think about. How might shifting your focus starting today from just earning that next paycheck to actively building assets, how might that change your financial future?
And just remember, this whole financial journey, it's ongoing, continuous learning, adapting, that's key.